You know the saying, this is $1 million idea? I think we need to say that more often. And today we will. Welcome to Everyday A New Thought. I'm Thor Chalgren. Today I'm going to talk about $1 million ideas. And I'm going to ask a question. Do we have enough $1 million ideas? I think the reason that possibly we don't is that first off, how could you know what an idea is worth? We've heard that phrase of like, oh, that's $1 million idea. But truthfully, how do you really know if it's $1 million idea until you see it to fruition, right? I could say right now that I have this idea to do something or other, but until I actually execute it, we don't know. So at the beginning, you can't really know if it's $1 million idea. Now, people may say it is, but you don't know. But here's the thing. I guarantee you that you could have $1 million idea this very day. Maybe something that you come up with is worth $1 million one day. I'll give you an example. In the days when I was a writer, there was a market for new screenplays called spec sales, where someone would write a screenplay on speculation, meaning no one was paying them to do it, and they hoped to sell it in a sort of a bidding war where there would be multiple people wanting to buy that script. And the sort of benchmark was if you sold that script for $1 million, that was thought of as a huge thing. I mean, obviously $1 million is a lot, but that was sort of one way to think about that. So that was a script that started as an idea and you hoped eventually would become so popular that people would pay $1 million on it for it. So that's an example of something, an idea that could ultimately become worth $1 million. Let me pause for a moment and say the definition of that $1 million idea is flexible. That could be $1 million to you. It could be $1 million to others. It was often said of Napoleon Hill that while he himself ultimately was wealthy, he said that his own personal benchmark was that he made many, many millions because he taught other people how to become successful in the ways that he had been. And so he said, I made many millionaires beyond what I myself made. So you may never know if your idea is worth $1 million, because other people may go out and take that information and become successful. And you'll just have to know that when you put this out into the world, that you can become successful through other people. So what makes the difference in whether an idea ultimately becomes successful that way? I will say it comes down to one thing: believing it. When you believe that something is worth $1 million, you start looking for ways to make that actually happen. If you think about it, if I told you, let's say I have a track record for predicting that something is going to be successful, and I tell you that that idea that you just had is worth $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, $1 million. If you believe that I'm right about it, you're going to start looking for ways to put this into practice, because you're going to think, well, Thor said it's worth that. So I just need to keep going until I find the ways that I can make that happen. So how do you put this into practice? Here's one suggestion. Decide that once a week, you're going to come up with an idea that could be worth a fortune to you. And you get to define what fortune means to you. It could be $1,000. It could be $10,000, $100,000. It could be $1 million. The point is, you get to decide what it's worth and say, today I'm going to prospect for ideas that are worth $1,000. And this idea doesn't have to be something new or revolutionary. It doesn't have to be like, I'm going to write a book or start a business or create a brand new shoe company. It could be, I'm going to think of one new way to market my existing business. I'm going to think about one new way to add value to the nonprofit I volunteer for. Or I'm going to think about one new way that I can help someone else do better at their job and get them a raise. So don't think that it always has to be some huge thing. It can be incremental, and especially if your goal is not $1 million, but maybe something smaller. But whatever it is, attach a label to it. So when you do this week, say to yourself, this is a $10,000 idea. Say that out loud. And I think this is the key, is repetition. The more that we say this, we start to believe it and go, okay, well, I'm saying it. It must be out there. It must be possible. So now you're going to start looking for it. Now, what's interesting is you won't know right away if that's true. But when you start saying it and you continually affirm that you are creating ideas that are $1 million ideas, that are a huge improvement in your life and the lives of people around you, the more that you say that, the more likely you are to make it true. And when you say this is $1 million idea, it may actually come to pass. Thank you so much for watching the show today. I appreciate you being here. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit like. Please subscribe to the channel. That way, every day that there's a new episode of Every Day a New Thought, you'll see it in your feed. Until tomorrow, thank you so much for watching.